Questions and comments. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I see that the member is following the lead of the interim leader. The lead of saying that this is all about encouraging the protests, the illegal blockades. It's about putting it on the shoulders of the Prime Minister. Character assassination, Madam Speaker. That's what we've been hearing today coming from the opposition benches. When Canadians are concerned about the economic costs, the costs to our communities, the shutdown in Ottawa, what's happening at our blockades, the Conservatives continue to want to have character assassination inside the chamber, to pass blame on an individual. My question to the member is, will he not recognize that the sense of urgency is there? Even the interim chief of Ottawa is using the legislation that we're debating today. There's an emergency declared by the City of Ottawa and the Province of Ottawa. Get on the right page, Madam Speaker, I say to the opposition.
The Honourable Member for Miramichi-Grand Lake.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank the member opposite for his question. And I want to remind the member opposite that when this issue started, the Prime Minister, rather than being a reasonable, measurable, responsible Prime Minister in our country, think of Chrétien, Harper, Mulroney, think of people from our past. They would have reached out to those dissenting voices. They might have broken bread, they may have shared a coffee, and they may have had a disagreement, but they would have put in an effort to reach common ground, and I believe this would have been over at least 2.5 weeks ago.
José commentaire. Questions or comments? The Honourable Member for Edmonton Strathcona.
I'd like to thank my colleague for his intervention in the House today. You know, he spoke about when he was in South Korea. He told a personal story about how he had met someone who was happy he was Canadian, not American. And I can't help but reflect on the fact that we are seeing misinformation and disinformation happening all around the world. Much of it is by Russian bots. You know, you can't be online for 2 minutes without being attacked by Russian bots right now. But what we have also seen is that there is misinformation being spread on places like Fox News that has been amplified by Republicans like Ted Cruz. And would he not agree that when Conservatives spread that misinformation, when Conservatives stand and get their photos taken with extremists, that they are in fact raising that misinformation and that disinformation in our country and making us more like that divisive politics that we see in America?
Honourable Member for Miramichi-Grand Lake.
Madam Speaker, I appreciate the question from the Honourable Member opposite. Full disclosure, the Americans are my friends too. That was part of my story. But what I will tell you here today is I never met with extremists. And the government is trying to make this a liberal versus a far right-wing agenda issue. It's not. This is about whether or not Canada wants to be similar to a communist state. Yeah. This isn't about liberalism anymore. I went to a liberal arts university. These are communist, socialist agendas. And I met with a transport truck driver who provides for his family. And she may have trouble with Fox News. She's voting for the censorship bill of trying to censor what Canadians can see online and what they can write online.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for South Shore St. Margaret.
The member in his excellent speech on this debate on this act talked about the need to actually reach out to people and hear what people have to say. One of the documents that's tabled with the proclamation that the government tabled is called a Report to the Houses of Parliament, Emergencies Act Consultation. So it's actually a list of all the meetings that the government had required under the Act prior to this to try and establish whether or not they did steps 1 and 2 before the last resort, as the Prime Minister said, the Emergency Act. When I look to it, I can't see any steps 1 and 2 other than meeting with themselves in cabinet meetings. They never met in this list, not once, with a Canadian outside of the government. So I'd like to have the honourable member's position with regard to consultation and hearing people before you resort to such a draconian act.
Member for Miramichi-Grand Lake.
I'd like to thank my honourable colleague. I think what we're seeing here, Madam Speaker, is, and it's what I was trying to say earlier, and it goes to the very question that I'm being asked right now. A prime minister who was, he or she, who was reasonable, would actually reach out to the organizers and attempt to have a conversation where potentially common ground could be found.
Sure.
Other jurisdictions were already loosening mandates. We wouldn't have been different from many of those in the free world. But the difference was the Prime Minister, like the WE scandal, hid in the cottage. Like the SNC-Lavalin scandal, hid in the cottage. Like the blackface scandal, hid in...
Debate. The